Hello everyone! Welcome to Rocket League Replays Workshop number 7. This time we're going to be continuing our LAN series. We've only done one so far. That was Cloud9 vs Vitality. I wanted to cover all of the matches that were, either kind of disappointments or exciting upsets or just really good gameplay in general. And I also wanted to roughly do it in chronological order. So that does kind of mean that some of the disappointments are going to come first because those are the teams that got eliminated early. And today we're going to be watching EG versus G2. I do think G2 would be what you'd consider one of the disappointments along with Vitality, I'd say. And EG, you could consider this a pretty decently sized upset. But EG is a team that... I mean, every time EG comes up, the analysis is always talking about how everyone sleeps on EG and, all that stuff. And yet they still sleep on EG every time. That was the same thing going into this. It's like, everyone sleeps on EG, but it's G2. G2 is the favorite here. And then we saw EG do some really good stuff. So there are some things that I want to focus on this broadcast, which is bumps, especially bumps and a clash of passing plays styles. So let me put it this way. I think, and I've mentioned this before, EG and G2 I think are fairly similar teams. They both kind of live by the bump at times, and they're both very passing heavy teams. And I've made this comparison before, but I haven't really made the distinction of how they do so differently. The bumps are sort of similar, but I think the way that the two teams go about passing plays is different. I think G2 is more of a keep throwing the passes into mid, just overwhelm the other team. If you keep putting together pretty solid passing plays and with very mechanically skilled players like on G2, they're going to place their shots well, and eventually they're going to start to go in, just applying a lot of pressure. EG is less of a mechanical team. They still do some cool mechanical stuff, but they're a lot less consistent. They're not going to be placing their shots as perfectly as G2 will every time they take them. So they rely a bit more opportunistically and passing in less straightforward ways. They do a very, very good job of taking what's given to them by the other team. G2 wants to do stuff where they keep throwing passes into midfield, and they don't really care, if a little bit better a pass is open by the other team. If they just keep making the pass they're used to, it's going to go in. And EG, they adapt their plays a lot based on where the other team is. And a lot of their plays are extremely non-obvious. We'll see some of those today. Some passing plays that are very clever and didn't really look like they're open. And they take full advantage of that. And I think that's kind of what they have to do, being a team that's not quite as mechanically sound. I mean, I don't mean to make it sound like they're a mechanically weak team, because they do a lot of their creativity relies on being able to pull off mechanical plays that are not easy at all. But a team like G2 is just so solid. They don't make that many mechanical mistakes at all. Whereas you do see EG make some mechanical mistakes here and there. And so the fact that they're still able to get to LAN and get all this stuff going, that's why I think you'll see me talking about EG more than G2, especially the good things they do, is because they sort of have to make up for a slight mechanical gap in this series, and they do so very well. One other thing I do want to talk about before we start is it was recently announced that Chrome is no longer a part of Evil Geniuses. There is some drama with that, which I won't get into, but I do think it's interesting because I mentioned that they're very strong with bumps and they're very strong with the creative passes. And I think Chrome really led the way for them in terms of bumps. But I think Classics and Corrupted G were the ones who were, when there's some really nice passing play coming out from EG, I think it was usually off the back of one of them making the, creative play. So I have to wonder, I don't know if that was a deliberate decision in you know, having Chrome no longer on the roster, but I can't help but feel that we'll see, depending on who the new third they pick up is, that we'll see Evil Geniuses transition into a more passing-heavy style and less bumps. I mean, not to say Classics and Corrupted G don't do a good job with bumps, because they do, but I think Chrome gets the highest volume of bumps on the team, so I think we will see a bit of a shift of style there. I think that's about it that I want to talk about going into the match, so I will be talking about the bumps quite a bit. Oh, actually, sorry, one more thing. I talked a lot, if you watch my last series that I covered Evil Geniuses, I believe it was Evil Geniuses or CLG. So I mentioned a lot what Evil Geniuses does. They're kind of bread and butter bump play. They pop it up, and then they go for the demo, and then their second teammate comes in from behind and takes advantage of the additional space. And that is a good demo play. It doesn't have to be so simple, and it's not quite that formulaic. And I wanted to talk in this series quite a bit about what makes a bump and what makes a demo play good to go for versus bad to go for. Because way back in the day, I would always talk about, or, you know, when I was talking about bumps, I used to think, like, they're good, but as players get better, they'll learn to dodge them, and they'll kind of lose effectiveness. And I still feel that way about the way a lot of teams used to go for bumps. They would just see an opening and always go for the bump. And I think you have to be smarter about it than that. If you don't have a teammate to follow up the bump, it doesn't do any good. What a bump needs to do is open up space. So by popping the ball and going for a demo, it removes the defender that was closest to where the ball now is. So it creates additional space for your teammate to do a better job of, you know, making a shot or making a pass. And I think the difference between a good bump and a bad bump is, does it open up a meaningful amount of space for one of your teammates to do something extra with the ball? And so I think that's something that you want to consider when deciding to go for a bump play. And I'll show a lot of examples of that in this series. That's going to be my real focal point for this. So let's get into it here. Whoops, sorry about that. Very early on, G2 completely squanders this first play. They get a bit of an advantage. Corrupted G misreads this bounce a little bit, and G2 has to make a quick decision. They clearly weren't expecting this miss, but then they double commit to the ball. What really should have happened here is Kronovi should have realized how much space he had and taken his space, allowed JKnups to pass, but I think they didn't quite realize how far back Classics was. This really could have just been a goal right off the bat, and they kind of threw away that opportunity there. And this again, so this is going to be the first goal of the series here. Evil Geniuses does a great job with the breakaway. This was a little tough for me to review because Kronovi is very much a player who likes to turn for the ball, and this is kind of ambiguous. He could rotate out here, but this is a lot of space he'd be giving Evil Geniuses, so I don't really mind him going for the pop here. What I do mind is I think he should be rotating back here and trying to get some boost. Allow JKnups to come in for a slower challenge, but because he goes up, Rizzo's nowhere near in position to make a contest, so Kronovi now, by making this challenge with low boost, he's pretty much just forcing Corrupted G to hit it forward, but JKnups can't really contest that. And so now 2 of G2 are extremely overcommitted. Classics has good recognition, and Chrome does a great job getting in position to make the play there. And also just reading that he can go for the shot. Pretty straightforward goal there for Evil Geniuses because G2 is a bit overcommitted, but great recognition from Evil Geniuses to make that really quick and sharp passing play. That's something they're very good at. So here, this is the first demo play we see and the first example. And I think this is one of the less effective demo plays we'll see here because it creates a little bit of space. Corrupted G demos Rizzo, but Kronovi is already very near Rizzo. So what does this do? It opens up a little bit of space for Chrome, but Chrome was already getting to the ball first. Now say Classics was here in mid. This would have been a good demo. because Chrome could have cleared it over to Classics, and now, instead of 2 defenders ready to challenge the ball, there would only be 1. Like, I'll just draw this one out. So let's say right here, we see... Is this working? I think I set this up right. Yeah, so if we see Kronovi here go up for the challenge, it vacates all this space over here. So if Classics was here, he could come in. But if Rizzo was not demoed here, we would see... Whoops. Rizzo could have gone for the challenge, and then Crow could have come out and defended the pass. So in that case, the demo would have made all the difference in the world, because it would have been a 2-on-1 instead of a 2-on-2. But now, it makes it a 1-on-1 instead of a 1-on-2. And either way, it's really not possible for Chrome to get anything started. He can hit the ball and keep pressure, but there's not much he can really do to create a play. I'm not saying Corrupted G should not have gone for the demo, because he spent very little resources to do so, but it didn't really add a whole lot to their attack. If anything, it was more of a boost starve kind of demo. This whole play right here is very patient from Evil Geniuses and very good. Chrome makes a very slow, nice hit down to Corrupted G, because Corrupted G has so much space. And now Corrupted G makes a nice pass back to Classics. Even though Classics doesn't settle it too well, G2 is still not really in position to challenge, and Chrome realizes there's no point in him just pushing it forward quickly, so he goes for a nice 50-50 here, and it ends up being a mind game. He's fine with that. And that gives a pretty good attack here for Evil Geniuses. Crow does barely read the mind game, but a nice patient passing play led to a good attack. And we will see a goal the other way. Before I talk about that, I do want to talk about how these patient passing plays, we're going to see more and more of as time goes on. In the past, you could kind of make one passing play, or make one pass, and it's enough to throw the other team out of position, and the other team, their rotations get a bit out of whack. You can just go in for a nice shot, and if you place it well, you're probably going to score. But nowadays, that's not enough. Everyone's ready for 1-2 passes, so sometimes you have to slow it down even farther, be patient, make the next pass. Because before, if your passing play could give you a 50% chance to score, versus making 2 60% passing plays for a combined 36%, you take the 50%. But now all of the percentages have gone down. People are reading it better. But making these nice safe passes a bunch of times and risking messing one of them up ends up becoming better than just making one pass and saying, okay, good enough, now we just shoot. Now that people are getting better and better at making their passing plays consistent and very optimally placed, players are going to be able to make more consecutive passing plays and feel comfortable doing so. But they don't end up getting this passing play, and then it comes the other way. Chrome and Corrupted G kind of bump in the corner, which slows their rotation, and they both sort of see the ball coming towards them, so they don't rotate too quickly. Looks like they're both pretty boost starved as well. And Classics doesn't quite recognize that, so he goes in for the challenge. He probably cheated a little bit too far to the side. If he was closer to center, he could have made a better challenge. And because he cheated far to the side, he felt obligated to make a contest, which I think he had to try and do at that point. Was not able to get a piece. So now it's 1-1. Pretty unnecessary touch by Classics there. And Crow comes in for the bump. This is a pretty solid play overall by G2, but also pretty unnecessary by EG. Off the bat here, Classics did not need to make that touch. There was no one who could really do anything threatening with it. Crow does a good job taking a high 50-50, which forces the ball over to JKnaps. Then he comes in for the bump on Corrupted G, which gives JKnaps a lot of space. Classics is forced to kind of make an iffy challenge, and then another pretty unnecessary touch. I'm sure Corrupted G wanted to do something different with it here, but as it stands, he didn't. It was not dangerous. It was in the corner, and he just passes it right to Rizzo. And Rizzo with a good shot. So now after seeing 2 kind of breakaway goals, we see one that was a little bit more set up. Still kind of a transition goal. Man, I have a lot in this early part of the game. Game 1 was pretty action-packed. Yeah, so we see another goal here. So what I have to say about this, just I don't know, it's kind of just G2 hitting it into bad places for EG, and then this touch by Rizzo is very smart. He just comes down and he touches it. He realizes there's a lot of space. Classics isn't really a challenge, so he just touches it nice and soft. Gives Crow as many options as possible, and Crow's going to score that every time. Oh, good awareness by Rizzo. Oh, we've lost some of our game sound. Sorry, this happens sometimes, especially when I'm reviewing the games. I hadn't had it happen during the show before, but I'm just going to get back to where we were real quick. Sometimes some of the sounds just die when you go back and forth enough. Okay, so here we are back in it. So now it's 3-1. After a strong start from EG, they've given up 3 goals in pretty rapid succession. And G2 is usually the kind of solid team you don't expect to see throwing leads too much, but we're going to see EG. They do a good job of making it awkward for G2, but G2 also makes a lot of mistakes in this game 1. They really do work it out quite a bit as the series goes on, but there's a lot of really weird stuff going on in this game from G2 that we have yet to see. Okay, so right here, when I first saw this play, I saw it go by into mid, and it seemed like, wow, what happened with Corrupted G's challenge there? But this is actually really smart, because he knows, based on how the rotations have gone, there's no threat lurking close in middle. G2 just has 2 people pursuing behind. And he knows that he has Chrome coming in behind him. So Corrupted G says, normally, you'd want to cut off the path to mid and towards goal. But Corrupted G is not worried about that in this case. He knows that if Rizzo hits it right to his goal, that his team's going to end up getting possession. So he makes a very slow challenge outwards, and it ends up getting what seems dangerously close to the net, but there's really no threat there at all. And ends up with his team having a chance to take possession. A very smart challenge by Corrupted G that I only noticed it because I looked at it the first time and I thought it seemed bad. So, yeah, this is the beginning of the kind of questionable plays from G2. We're going to see the rotations break down just a little bit. Crow goes up for a challenge there where he's pretty doomed to lose, that he probably shouldn't have, and then after getting the bump, JKnaps thinks he has time to go for boost, but Chrome's quick to follow up, and he realizes he doesn't really need to hit the ball, he just needs to prevent Rizzo from keeping it out, so he just goes up for the 50-50, and Rizzo goes for it as well, and that benefits Chrome. He's now able to just take it nice and easy, and they score the goal. So now that's 1 goal back for Evil Geniuses. They just need 1 more to tie it up. 2-goal comeback would be a statement for them in this game 1. And here we see, this is an example of an effective bump. I've mentioned that with bumps, you want to be controlling space, and that's exactly what this is doing from Chrome. We see him come around. So, okay, let me point out real quick, there is still a bug with the ball cam, so it may look like they have ball cam on when they don't. I do have the setting on, but even when I take it off, the point of views get really wonky. So just because it looks like they have ball cam on, in a situation like this, just assume it's off. He's looking for the demo here, and he gets a bump. And while this doesn't directly lead to a goal or anything, let's look at the field from an aerial perspective before he got this bump. Kronovi and Rizzo are both heavily committed towards the right side of the field. The only one who's able to play a ball on the left side here is Rizzo, and since Chrome bumps him out, this gives a whole world of space. In fact, Corrupted G gets bumped by Rizzo, and even with that, Classics is still able to win this ball, just because Chrome's bump left so much space. And now Corrupted G makes a smart touch out to mid. This is the kind of passing play I'm talking about, where they don't just keep brute forcing it, getting the strong infield passes, getting the strong backboard passes when there's no backboard defense. They make those extra little touches out mid where they're nice and ambiguous. When I say ambiguous, I mean here that from Kronovi's perspective, Corrupted G could be trying to play this off of the backboard, or out to Chrome. And he wants to try and cover both possibilities, so he can't move too far out for the pass, otherwise the backboard's left vulnerable. And so only at the last second does Corrupted G reveal his hand. And so Chrome's able to get there in time for the 50-50. And this is just... I don't even know what to say about this. I'll take a nice... This should not be happening. I can understand, you know, it's getting to their zone, they're getting bumped around a little bit, but like, there's never really an excuse to be that clustered up. And then we see, even after that, they're all kind of boost starved. They think they have it out, and then somehow this slow shot ends up scoring. G2 really out of whack there. When I saw that, I thought we'd be in for a long series. They do actually tighten it up pretty substantially, which was good to see, but yeah, that was pretty questionable. I was trying to figure out what happened there, watching it from all their perspectives, but it was just sloppy. Everyone sort of getting bumped around, getting bumped into each other. It was awkward, but... Okay, here, again, we see a nice bump controlling space. Right here, JKnaps and Crow are both very far on the right side of the field. Again, we see Rizzo, the only one who's ready, to make a challenge on the other side of the field. So Corrupted G just bumps him away. Now when the pass comes in from JKnaps, it was a little bit behind, but now Rizzo's nowhere near ready to challenge, and Corrupted G just scoops it up. He doesn't do too much with it, but the amount of space that's controlled there just from one bump on rotation, Corrupted G barely had to spend any additional time, and he threw G2 completely out of whack on their play. And EG, we see they do a very, very high ratio of good bumps. We do not see many bumps that they go for that don't have a purpose. That actually brings me into one more point I want to make about bumps, which is that players are getting much better at not getting demoed. You know, they can jump over it. It'll throw them a little bit off, but they're still ready to make a play. They might get bumped a little bit, they may just jump over it. In the past, we saw some demo plays that completely relied on getting the demo. If they didn't get the demo, it would basically do nothing. If the person jumped over them, they're just ready to challenge again, and it basically does nothing. These newer demo plays that we see work very well, it doesn't matter if the player gets the demo, the interference is enough to mess up the other team. The demo is just, it's just icing on the cake. And a good bump play, I think, in general, will not rely on the demo. Sometimes it's okay to go for a play that relies on the demo if you don't have to go too far out of your way, but I'd say generally, if just making them jump is enough, then that makes it more likely that it's a good demo play to go for. And there will be an example of a bump play that relies on a demo later on that I will point out when we get there, but that's just another thing I wanted to address. So coming up here, we're going to see Crow go up the wall, tracking a ball, and then JKnaps is going to call that he has it. Probably calls off Crow here. And it's a little bit unfortunate here that JKnaps hits it into Crow, and it kind of comes off weirdly. And then that leads into probably 25 seconds of pretty sloppy play here. Classics is going to miss the open net. Rizzo's going to pop it pretty scarily in front of his own net. And it's going to be pretty sloppy play until EG will end up scoring a goal. Miscommunication on that pass there to JKnaps. Rizzo's going to miss the read. Crow's going to miss because of Rizzo. Crow's going to miss another read and they're going to score. What we do see here is Chrome turns around again and goes for the bump. And this is the kind of situation, you know, he doesn't have the momentum to demo, but he bumps JKnaps enough that JKnaps can't go in for the read. And since Crow misses it, that's going to do it. So now only 52 seconds left for G2 to try and equalize. But it's not going to take long. We're going to see Corrupted G turn back, cheating up a little bit. He didn't think that Chrome would be able to lose this ball outright. Just a slight misread on the situation. Crow wins to the ball. And a valiant effort by Corrupted G, but does not get back in time. And now it's 4-4. This game, again, pretty sloppy game. Not indicative of the series as a whole. This is a fairly good series. Right here, this is actually a very good bump by JKnaps. Very quick recovery. We're going to see him boost down towards the ground and recover extremely quickly, and then jump to get the bump on Classics. But Crow thinks Classics is going to beat him, so he actually peels off. That would have been a goal right there. Very strong play by JKnaps. So now, after all this that's gone on this game, it's somehow tied at 4-4. Looking at going to overtime. There's going to be one last chance here. A bit of a double commit there, but then this is actually very nice control by Classics. We're going to see him take a very good first touch there, which allows him to get around it even farther and play it out towards mid. But there were 3 defenders in net, and Kronobi does a very good job at cutting off this option, realizing that his teammates are ready to prevent the shot. He comes out and gets there in time. Very good control by Classics, and very good coordination by G2 when they're all stacked in net. And there it is, overtime. But it's not going to last long. We're going to see Kronobi. He tries to kind of slow play it here in the corner, and Chrome just punishes him for it. Gets a good 50. Classics goes up, puts a nice shot into the bottom left corner. And that's game number 1 towards Evil Geniuses. So everyone doubting Evil Geniuses again, and they take game 1. Not the most convincing fashion. It was overtime in a very sloppy series. After that game, it kind of seemed like if G2 can stop doing all that mess stuff where they bunch up in corners, then surely they'll end up taking the series, but the games do get better from here on out. So let's just go right into game 2. Oh, I did it too early. Pardon me. So we're going to see in this game a decent bit of early pressure from EG. They do a pretty good job of maintaining it for the first... after they get out of their zone here, they'll maintain it for a pretty decent amount of time. Probably about 45 seconds. Great transition play there. Classics down to Chrome to get out of their half. And then we're going to see Classics get a nice dunk on Kronobi here. And this starts their pressure. Corrupted G is going to play off the wall. You know, here, it's all too easy to try and force a pass right to your team. But Corrupted G knew better. He knew that G2's ready for him to play it out to mid with JKnaps. Right here, JKnaps is ready to defend the backboard, so Corrupted G just plays it into more open space so they have time to set up another play. And then Classics, this is a very, very nice passing play by Classics. He's coming at it from a really weird angle. It doesn't look like he's going to be able to get a pass out to mid. And again, I talked about ambiguous plays. Even with Classics jumping right here, all of his options are open. He could play it off the backboard, he could shoot it, and he could even get a very delicate touch out to mid. But that is much harder than the other plays. And yet that's exactly what he does. He comes around it, and he somehow pops it really cleanly up to mid. This creates quite a good chance for EG. Tries to get another little dunk down. Doesn't quite work. But those ambiguous passing plays are just so powerful. Because you can even adjust yourself. If they're playing really hard on the pass, you could change up your hit and go for the shot instead. All it would take is dodging like diagonally instead of sideways. We see those kinds of passing plays just all the time from EG. This too, this is a very strong passing play by Chrome. It's a very tricky play. He comes up, he jumps very early, as if, you know, he's trying to get a nice controlled shot in, or maybe right off the backboard. But he comes in and pops it up quite lightly to the side. Unfortunately for him, Kronovi does a very good job of reading this. Throughout this series, at least the early goings of the series, Crow does do quite a good job of playing these passes. Very good recognition from him. And right here, this is very good defense from JKnaps. We're going to see a very poor touch from him to open it up. He wants to settle it here, but he accidentally takes it after it bounces and it pops way up. And immediately after this happens, he knows he's made a mistake. But he plays it very calmly. He drifts, turns around, and he actually plays pretty much every option here. He sees Chrome going up, and he waits until Chrome's right about to hit the ball to pre-jump. Now it's too late for Chrome to recognize the pre-jump and try and go under him. And he pre-jumps late enough that even if Chrome hits it down, he can probably still block it. So now he's pre-jumped. And look where he is. He didn't go too far to the goal. He's ready to cover a pass to Classics. He's ready to cover a shot on net. And he's even ready to cover a backboard play. So we see kind of a light touch go in, which was intended as a pass to Classics. And JKnaps is ready. Very well defended in the 1v2. Coming up here, we're going to see JKnaps and Crow be a little bit out of sync. Last week I mentioned with Vitality versus Cloud9 that Vitality, they had a bunch of passing plays where neither player was objectively in the wrong. It's just that what the two players did not match up with each other. And I think that's the same here. We're going to see JKnaps. He's going to go in for the next touch. Crow initially thought it was his ball, but JKnaps is able to get there sooner, so JKnaps goes for it. And then when Crow realizes that, he says, okay, I guess I should go way back towards mid. And that would be fine based on how JKnaps plays it, but JKnaps thinks that Crow's instead going to linger a little bit farther behind, and he makes the pass off the corner. Crow's not well positioned for it, so he can't really get it around the defender. So neither player did anything objectively wrong, they were just a little bit out of sync. Looking at that, I thought maybe that would be a theme in this series too, but I didn't see too much of that from G2. This should have been a goal right here. This is a good bump by Kronovi. He recognizes and immediately realizes that Chrome has to go basically into the path he's driving, so he turns a little bit and bumps Chrome. Chrome does swerve to try and dodge the imminent bump, but Crow tracks him down. And now, because JKnaps kind of gets interfered with by Chrome a little bit, he slightly misses this shot, but that probably should have been a goal. Big missed opportunity for G2. Okay, so coming up right here, we're going to see Chrome is going to make a pass to Corrupted G, and it's going to work out pretty well, but this is way too easy for EG. I mean, Chrome passes it basically down the center of the field, and yet neither of the G2 defenders are ready to go. Corrupted G should not be able to have so much time on a redirect so close to the goal like that. It's not the strongest shot in the world by Classics, but this was a very good chance for EG, and it should not have been this easy. I tried to look at what happened, and I think Rizzo just rotates too hard, starts going to the corner for some reason. But even JKnaps probably should have been able to defend a pass right down the middle like this. That's just miscoordinated defense to allow such an easy passing play. So I've seen some pretty decent chances for each team, but it's still 0-0. Both teams had some times where they probably should have scored, though. Right here, we're going to see kind of a cute give-and-go attempt by Kronovi. He sees Rizzo going to land, and he doesn't have that great of a hit at the ball, so he's going to try and pop it back up to Rizzo. Rizzo doesn't land quite on the wall like he'd like to, and this is a very risky play. We're going to see Since Rizzo misses, this gives up a lot of space to EG. Crow can't win the challenge here, and now Corrupted G has quite a few options. I think that play from Crow was a little bit risky. It was a fairly low percentage play, and with not that much reward, so I think it would have been better to just try and roll it up the wall and buy some time. So now Corrupted G with a very smart pass dishing it off towards mid. Again, these are the kinds of plays that EG makes that is really a problem for the other team. Just, he looks like he may go for the shot, the net seems a little bit open, so Kronovi has to back up to respect it. And then he says, no, I'm just laying it off to Chrome. And while Chrome doesn't quite score it, it's another very solid opportunity for EG. And now, unfortunately, in transition, we're going to see a little bit of a misplay from every single member of EG here, and it's going to lead to a goal. So Chrome first doesn't quite get to the ball, then Classics doesn't settle it like he wants to. He's trying to get a nice touch into 50-50, but it pops a bit high. So now he's out of the play, and Corrupted G doesn't quite get away from Crow. And now they have to deal with kind of a transition play, where if any of the three made a better challenge, they wouldn't have had to deal with this. But now instead, they have to deal with this really weird roll off the corner, and Chrome doesn't quite read it well enough, doesn't get there in time. And a nice shot far post by Rizzo is going to give them the lead. Watching that at a glance, it seems just like, oh wow, Chrome shouldn't have missed that read, but it was a very strange read because of the roll, and it didn't really need to get to that. They all made mistakes in transition. So even though EG is down a goal, but they showed pretty good patience with waiting for stuff to happen, even down 2 goals in game 1. Definitely, and they had a lot of pressure this game, so it seemed pretty conceivable that they'd be able to equalize here, even with a low amount of time left. But this is a very good infield pass by Crow. I actually want to highlight this because it didn't look like anything too special, just looked like, oh yeah, he went for another infield pass. But if you look at how this play went, he had 0 boost, and it bounced pretty far off. You have to take this pretty creatively to get a nice touch, and he actually dodges early enough that his car flips back around and he hits this just on the part of his wheel where it won't make the hit weak. And gets a nice infield pass. Very technical play by Crow. So coming up here, I mentioned we saw a bit of bad chemistry between Crow and JKnaps where they went for different things. This is very good chemistry here. Crow hits it high off the backboard, and JKnaps is so ready for it. You can tell he sees this coming from a mile away. It goes off, and then JKnaps is already up so quickly. Beats Corrupted G to the ball by a mile. You could tell he knew exactly what Kronovi wanted to do there. Yeah, so G2 just had to kill a few more seconds, and they almost messed up with this misread by Crow, but Classic's not quite able to bury it. So that's going to do it for Game 2. Now 1-1 in the series, and it's been pretty back and forth so far. No clear indication of who's favored for the rest, I would say. Both teams having ample opportunities. One of the games going 5-4 in overtime, one of them going 1-0, so very different scoreline in the games. And I do think we saw a lot less slop from G2 in that game. They kind of cleaned up their act a bit. That game, the first game on LAN really is quite a bit more difficult. I usually felt on LAN that it took me one game to really completely zone in. I was almost there, but I wasn't, feeling completely natural like I was at home until Game 2. So maybe that's what happened there. Hard to say. Anyway. Oh. Usually when my controller makes that disconnect sound, it just starts working again. Give me 1 sec. Uh-oh. Do I have to replace the Alright. Alright, we're back. Had a bit of technical difficulties. So in a sec here, we're gonna see... Oh, actually, that's... Yeah, so... We're gonna see a goal here. A bit of a double commit from Classics and Corrupted G. And that's pretty crazy placement from Crow. This double commit probably shouldn't have happened. Classics probably shouldn't be going for this. I think he just misread the ceiling bounce. Which, it happens sometimes. Those ceiling bounces from far away can be really hard to judge the depth of how they're coming at you. But that does open up the scoring for G2. This whole game is going to really, though, be a game of missed opportunities for EG. They're going to create a lot of chances for themselves, and they're not going to be able to put any of them in until it's too late. Oh, whoops, I was looking at the wrong notes for the wrong game. Once I scroll down my notes, I start to like lose track of where I am. But it's too hard to put them all in one, or to fit them all on like one screen. So, right here, I do want to highlight that Rizzo, he doesn't even jump for this ball. Now, granted, his, he does have kind of, what? You can't really see what's going on. But, I mean, obviously he knows Classics in this area. All players at this level have sort of an idea of what's going on here. And so he knows that Classics is somewhere right around there, ready to go for the ball. But he also knows that Chrome is driving the other way, so he knows that Classics does not have really anything dangerous to do with the ball. So he's basically just going for the ball in case Classics backs off. So when Classics hits it, Pronovi is just immediately able to take possession. And if that pass was from Corrupted G was just a little bit more to the side, this would have been a very, very good pass. This is such a nice, delicate touch from Chrome right here. He basically, I mean, granted, he didn't need to go for this because Rizzo was far out of the play, but he clearly did not really realize that Rizzo had gone all the way back for boost. So his touch essentially would make any defender who's in the area not want to go for this ball, and it plays it a little bit more to the side, so Corrupted G can come around it farther. Unfortunately, he doesn't come around it enough, so now Rizzo's able to intercept the pass. But that was very close to being a good chance for Evil Geniuses. And that's one of those plays where I think if you were in that play and you told G2 exactly what to do, they'd probably execute it a little bit better. G2, I do think their mechanics are just a little step above. But EG finds those passes where other teams don't, and that's what makes them successful. So this goal, kind of a mistake from G2, but Classics right there. He gets the 50. He hits it. Actually, I don't think it got blocked at all, but he was like kind of going for a 50 and then managed to hit it up somewhere that's extremely hard for the defense to read. You know, Classics is coming in with momentum. The defense just has to figure out where it's going to go before the ball bounces, which is very difficult to do. So Classics is able to equalize. And the chances are going to keep rolling in for EG. But they're not quite going to go. This is a very good pop by Classics. We're going to see Chrome hit it across, and Classics is going to very quickly recognize that it hits the crossbar. Right here. I think it comes a little bit more down than it normally would have. And Classics recognizes that extremely quickly and pops it out for Corrupted G. Creates yet another good chance for them. But yet another chance that doesn't go in. Now here we're going to see, this is just a lot of very good plays by G2 to get it downfield. A bunch of really precise finesse kind of touches. We're going to see right here, it starts, I'm going to slow this whole play down. So Kronovi starts off by getting a very nice touch right there. He actually hit it a little bit up. It's very hard to see, but this ball would have bounced farther out. Crow barely nicked it, so it pops up more instead of coming out too far. Rizzo's going to make a nice hit down towards JKnaps to allow him to beat Classics. JKnaps is going to get a beautiful pop up that centers it towards the goal without allowing Classics to get to it. And then Rizzo comes in for the finish with a nice touch over Corrupted G. Very solid play by G2 all around there. And that's what they need. Those are the kinds of plays that G2 gets when they're playing well. And they just didn't get too many of them this series. And another chance here. Classics gets a good bump on JKnaps, but Corrupted G doesn't shoot it on target. That's another example of what I'm talking about with a good bump. Classics sees it goes out to his teammate, and then his teammate has a chance to make a challenge. So now that creating space for his teammate is going to be useful, he goes in for the bump. And it does create space. It creates a wide open net. But Corrupted G had to beat Rizzo, so he wasn't able to shoot it on net. So here, this is a little unfortunate. Chrome starts to slow play the ball here, and Corrupted G realizes he's going for the dribble, so he tries to bump Rizzo out of the way so that he can't make a challenge on Chrome, and Chrome can just drive by. Unfortunately, the bump just speeds up Rizzo, and allows him to challenge much earlier than Chrome was ready for, and it just kind of pops out to mid. JKnaps gets a nice read on the double tap. Corrupted G kind of panics, not knowing if anyone's near. And it's a goal. It's a bit unfortunate by Corrupted G, his bump not doing what he intended. But EG actually gets it right back off the kickoff. Double commit from G2, Corrupted G punishes that easily. So now EG just needs one more goal. Unfortunately, that goal is going to come for the wrong team. Now EG did have to get a little over-aggressive. This whiff from Crow is going to buy some space for Rizzo. And Rizzo's going to get a nice, delicate double tap on in. Pretty much sealing the deal, unless EG can pull off some magic. But as we so often see in these 2-goal games with no time left, one team just hard overcommits and then it ends up becoming a 3-goal game. We did see a good chance for EG there, though. I mean, I really did feel like this game, it ends up being 5-2, but it feels like EG had all the chances in the world, and that they probably created more quality chances than G2. They just couldn't sink them. And so as a result, G2 goes up 2-1 in the series. Not easy for a team to come back after losing a game 5-2. But EG is able to do it. And we are going to figure out how they were able to do it. So let's get into the next game here. Now, I'm sure EG realized that they had a ton of missed opportunities in Game 3. I'm sure they did not feel like they were just getting strangled and, you know, not getting any room to breathe, because they had plenty of room to breathe. They were making their passes, so I'm sure they weren't feeling down and out. When I first saw this play, I looked at this pass from JKnaps to Crow, and I thought, why did Crow not try and touch it middle for JKnaps? But after looking at the play more carefully, Chrome actually does a beautiful job of guarding the pass. We're going to see right here. Let me slow it down. Chrome is using all the boost he has left to try and cover this pass to JKnaps. If Crow just dumped it off, Chrome would have been all over it. So it seemed like an obvious passing play. It seemed like he had a ton of space, but Chrome actually had that really well covered. Very good job from him. I was impressed just like looking at that play. Just looking at it at a glance, it looked like that pass would have been open 10 times out of 10, but the very good awareness. And that may be indicative of why G2 wasn't able to get their usual passing plays going, because maybe EG was just doing such a good job of covering it that it wasn't obvious. G2 just wasn't going for those passes because they were well covered. Sometimes that happens. It feels like a team's not passing, but they're just not there because the other team controls the space well. Sometimes those little nuances are very hard to pick up unless you're looking for them specifically, like analyzing for one key component of the game. So this play coming up here, this is a little bit nitpicky probably. Crow's going to make a pass to JKnaps, and he passes it very hard and fast. And this is something G2 does a lot. They try and do very hard and fast passes and get a nice shot into the upper corner or something. But I can't help but feel that JKnaps, or Kronovi first, should have tried to slow it down a little bit more. And then JKnaps should have tried to do a give and go instead of just trying to shoot it right off the bat, because EG is stacking net. Imagine here, Crow takes it very slow. Instead of jumping for it, he just settles it, makes it a nice and easy ground pass, and then goes off into space. Like, so for instance, Crow comes up, plays it over like just around here for JKnaps. JKnaps comes in, Crow drifts off towards this side. JKnaps plays the ball back over to him like this, and then Crow will have his shot on net. Not a great angle, but it will bait out some of the EG defenders in net because there's a lot to defend there. They probably would not be significantly defending this give-and-go play. But instead, they try and go for the fast passing play, and with EG stacked in net, nothing but perfection is going to score there. Can't help but feel they could have made it a little bit easier for themselves. They keep pressure for a while here. They do a good job of that. So right here, this is the classic EG demo play. This whole play is super, super solid. What Chrome's going to do here, he has no intention of going for this ball. He forces Kronovi off of the wall. And then he says, okay, Crow's hitting the ball. Where? Out to one of my teammates. Since the ball's going to my teammate, it's a good time for me to go for a demo. He tracks down Rizzo in net, gets the demo. Now on the other side of the field, this has opened up so much space. We see that Kronovi was forced to hit it right there to Corrupted G. Corrupted G just slams it off the wall back out to Classics. And now look at the space. Chrome's demo bought so much space. There's no one ready to challenge in the middle here. Classics just comes in. All he has to do is put a hard shot on goal and they score. And he does exactly that. That's a perfect demo passing play there by EG. That's just textbook. We're going to see here again. Corrupted G's going to do the classic pop-in demo. Hits it up. Goes in for the demo on Chrome. Or Kronovi, sorry. But Kronovi dodges it. Does a great job of staying with it even after dodging it. That's much harder to defend than it looks when there's someone driving at you like that. It's hard to jump and still, like, jump on little notice and carry enough momentum. So this whole play here kind of starts with this misread from Rizzo. And not only is it a misread, it bounces back off of him after he misses. So that just makes it awkward for everyone. And then EG almost scores off of it, but not quite. But so far in this game, we've seen EG really ramp up the bumps, and to great effect. They were bumping early on in the series, and they were finding success. We saw less of them in these last few games where they've been losing, and now we're seeing them start to come back into play again. Right here, this is phenomenal patience by Chrome. We see him settle this ball, and similar to how Corrupted G played it earlier in the corner, he says, there's no threat. There's no threat if it comes mid. I have two teammates there, the other team has no teammates there. So he just forces a 50-50 out of JKnaps, and it goes right to Classics. Suddenly, they're on the attack instead of on the defensive. It was just coming in. G2 was trying to play it in transition, and Chrome made sure that they had nothing started. Right here, Corrupted G settles it down, and this is pretty hasty by Classics. Classics needs to know that Corrupted G, in going for a 50-50 like that, is planning to follow it up on the wall, if he's able to win. But Classics kind of just rushes in for the pinch. And while it gets it onto the other side, they had a chance at actually starting up a nice controlled play. So this is another good example of controlling space with a demo. JKnaps is going to come in from behind and demo Chrome. And suddenly EG's attack is just dead. If Chrome was there, he could have, you know, kept the ball and kept the pressure up, but suddenly G2 is immediately on the attack. That's the difference between JKnaps going for that demo and not going for that demo. An immediate consequence. Offensive possession versus defensive possession. Normally the demos in rotation are a little bit slower to have consequences. You know, it just maybe starts their boost a little bit or allows you to not feel the pressure in 10 seconds or something. A lot of times the demos in rotation are less clear. But that was a very clear example of how a demo in rotation immediately swung the tides. So here, I don't like this challenge by Crow. G2 does overcommit a little bit. Not a great pass from JKnaps, and Rizzo still commits to it. But Crow needs to realize he's the last one back here. He kind of goes for a half-hearted challenge where he says... It's sort of like Corrupted G's challenge earlier in the corner, where he's not trying to cut off all the angles. He's just trying to do a very low committal play. He commits very few resources towards going for this ball. He doesn't flip into it. He just lets it hit him and hopes that maybe a 50-50s off of him again. But it doesn't. And now there's no one back to defend. And that's a problem. With Crow being the last one back, he has to commit to the challenge. If he had a defender in net, that would have been a good play, because he commits very little and he's able to rotate quickly or grab boost quickly or something like that. But instead of him being able to do that, there's no one there, so it's just an immediate goal coming from G2. And that's kind of... I think it's very valuable to have low committal challenges, to say, I think I'm losing, but it's going to be okay, so I'm not going to flip into it because I want to be able to rotate faster. And that's something that people have gotten better at, that is a very important thing to be able to add to your gameplay, but you also need to know when to do it. And as the last one back, I'd say it's usually incorrect. Now this next play, we see an immediate whiff by Crow off of the kickoff on the corner. Just kind of misread that corner bounce. And then Corrupted G does a great job here. He waits until Rizzo's right about to get to the ball to waste as much time as possible, commit Rizzo as hard as possible, and then just perfection of a pass down to Chrome. Chrome knows exactly what he's doing. and is very ready for it. Good play by Evil Geniuses, and that pretty much seals it. There are 40 seconds, but the only way Evil Geniuses could lose is if they miss open nets like that. The awkward miscommunication after a whiff there. Evil Geniuses actually plays pretty sloppy for a team who's up 0-3 here. They make it closer than it needed to be, but G2 is not going to end up scoring anything. And so that means we're going to Game 5. And G2 is the team that is always hailed as being the king of Game 5s. They do not lose those decider games. They're the clutchest teams. They're the clutchest team in Rocket League when it comes to the statistics, at least, in Game 5 wins. But Evil Geniuses is taking them there. And will they be able to pull it out? They were the underdog going in. They have to be even more the underdog going into Game 5s in terms of stats. They have their work cut out for them, is the least I can say. And somehow, it feels like G2 starts getting a little bit of that sloppiness back that we saw in Game 1. When it matters most. Not what we're used to seeing. Oh, let me scroll down my notepad. There we go. Actually, be prepared this time. Right off the bat here, EG kind of makes a statement. They go for this. So Classics hits it off towards Chrome. Chrome's off the backboard, and Chrome tries to hit it back into Classics. And it almost works. If they had scored that, that would have been one of the goals of the tournament, I think. But, I mean, to be trying that play, that's not the kind of play that EG tries too often. They don't try stuff just because it would be stylish like some teams. It's kind of a statement to go for that. And this is another demo play here. The goal likely would have happened without the demo play in this case, but it makes it even that much more solid. And great use of the corner by Corrupted G there. Hitting it, he knows his angles. He hit it at exactly the angle that he needed to put it right out to his teammate. And so the defense couldn't get it. And now EG is up in that Game 5. Yeah, so this whole play is fairly strong by G2. I actually want to go back through the whole thing. So right here, it leads off with this Rizzo demo. And what have I been saying this whole time? Demos create space. So now, the midfield is wide open after this Rizzo demo. So what does Kronovi do? Pops it up to midfield. Now there's no one from EG to fill that hole. Now JKnaps hits it back to Crow. Crow unfortunately misses this, but this play they've strung together kind of made it awkward for EG. They were, Classics is pre-jumping in net there, and Corrupted G doesn't have a great play on this ball. Ends up kind of hitting it awkwardly back out. Now Kronovi, nice play off the backboard. Again, this backboard is usually going to be defended. Teams are very good at defending the backboard nowadays, but because G2 put together that nice passing play with the demo, EG's a little boost starved. They're a little out of position, so they weren't ready for this backboard play. Rizzo's shot somehow doesn't go in, but Chrome has to try and save it immediately, and JKnaps just scoops it up. So well done by G2. And that seemed to be the G2 we know. Clutch in Game 5s. They conceded a goal, but they brought it right back. We actually saw, I think it was during league play, we saw G2 versus EG. And I believe it went to Game 5 overtime, where G2 actually won. I could be wrong about it being overtime. Maybe it was a one-goal game, but it was a close game. I think it was overtime. And in that instance, G2 clutched it out like they usually do. And I'll tell you what, this game is also going to overtime. even despite crazy plays like this going on. It does get to be a fair bit of sloppiness in this game. Definitely lots of nerves to go around. G2 is not looking to go out this early, and EG is on the brink of making a great upset. So, right here we see a double commit from Evil Geniuses, but Classics quickly realizes that they did double commit, so instead of trying to hit it as far forward as possible and maybe hand it to Rizzo, he just tries to buy as much time as possible and hits it over towards the left side where no one's really ready for it. And then Corrupted G demos the nearest player. So suddenly it's EG's ball, in what looked to be a pretty bad situation. And now we see Chrome out for blood, getting 2 demos in a row. And if you're not really paying attention to this play and the demos, you see, okay, Kronovi intercepted this pass. It was a good pass, but it was very well read by Kronovi. He intercepted it. Surely G2 should be taking over the play now. But no. Since Chrome got those 2 demos earlier, G2 didn't have anyone ready to challenge. And that's showing how demos can really mess up a team for longer than just the next couple seconds. A lot of times you don't really see the effect of the demo. I mean, sometimes you do. Sometimes a demo just instantly leads to a goal. But a lot of times, you don't really see the impact unless you're specifically tracking the player who got demoed, seeing what kind of a bad position it put them in. Here we're going to see another Chrome bump. He sees Corrupted G's about to slam out into space. Who's on this side of the field? Kronovi. Kronovi gets bumped. Now JKnaps has to take a while to set up, and so he's not really able to put anything together. Now, I mentioned earlier an example of a demo that relied on getting the demo to be successful. And that's exactly what happens right here. Sorry. Right here. So we're going to see JKnaps goes for the demo on Classics. And if he gets the demo, that's going to set up a play for Rizzo. However, since he doesn't get the demo, Classics is able to... Since there's so much space before Rizzo can get there, Classics has all day. He can swerve around JKnaps to avoid the demo. And so, JKnaps can't get the demo, and Classics still wins to the ball. Now JKnaps just wasted a bunch of boost. So this is a demo play that relies on getting the demo to be successful, which can still be fine. But a lot of times, Rizzo would have been a lot closer to the ball. So if JKnaps went for a demo and Classics tried to swerve like that, then Classics wouldn't have been able to get to the ball before Rizzo. But because Rizzo was so far away, JKnaps' lack of demo didn't actually end up causing any problems at all for Evil Geniuses. And that, in that particular situation, I don't think JKnaps really had any way to realize just how far behind him Rizzo was. So I'm not trying to critique JKnaps for going for that demo, because I think in a lot of situations that would be a very strong demo play. But in that particular instance, that was more meant to highlight what I meant when I said that some plays rely on being a demo to be successful. And I think those plays are less often the right thing to go for. We see a lot of back and forth this game. I was kind of having trouble figuring out what to say about this game. There were a lot of just kind of hits back and forth. We saw a lot more solo plays like this from Corrupted G. You know, these are two teams, they've been doing a bunch of passing and stuff. And this from Chrome, like, we see them sort of get away from what they do best. And I can't help but feel that's why this game feels a little bit more ping-pongy, and it felt like there was a lot more for me to talk about. Or a lot less, excuse me. I do have a lot of notes from the overtime, but from the regular time of this game, I couldn't find that much going on. Now right here, this should have been the game. Corrupted G tries to get a delicate touch out to himself. He hits it a little bit harder than he wants. And Rizzo perfectly hits it just around Corrupted G, then back out to his team. But Crow doesn't wait long enough for the Rizzo demo. His shot's not well enough placed. But that really should have been the game right there. And that, you know, if the game had ended there, it would have been a classic G2. Clutch it out in the nick of time. But instead we have this overtime coming up. This overtime coming up. Again, right off the bat, Corrupted G is going to get to the side, and he's going to go for the ceiling shot. These ceiling, or not ceiling plays, just solo plays in general. I'm not sure exactly if that's what contributed towards this game suddenly becoming back and forth, but because I didn't really notice that until towards the end of the match. But it really feels that way to me. So right here, this is another example of a bump that was not so effective. We're going to see Corrupted G. The ball is going to get stopped weirdly by Rizzo. Just gets tossed up. So Corrupted G could slam on the brakes and maybe get there. Instead, he goes for the bump on Rizzo, not realizing how far away his teammates are. So he gets the bump on Rizzo. But how much space does that create? Not a whole lot, because JKnaps is pretty close to Rizzo. Bumping a player who's very far away from their team creates a lot more space than bumping a player who's close to your team. That doesn't mean you should be trying to drive farther away on the field, because then you're wasting a lot of resources. But if you happen to be rotating through, you know, a part of the field where there's not too much action, oftentimes that's even better to get a demo than if you're right in the middle of the action. Because now you've opened up such a big window for your team to pass it out into space and, you know, get a play going. Here again, Crow just throws this at the net. Why is he not passing it to JKnaps here? I feel G2 and Crow normally would try and set up this play. Corrupted G is in kind of no man's land. JKnaps is pretty close to him, but he still could have started a nice ground pass here. But instead he just throws it right at net. And what could have been a good play for G2 is nothing at all. So now, we're about to hit the end of our game. Kronovi. Oh, sorry, that's the wrong part. Yeah, right here. I feel that Kronovi probably shouldn't have gone for this ball. I understand why he did, because from his point of view, he couldn't see classics here. He didn't know how close the defense was, and he wanted to make JKnaps hit work. But since he commits and loses, he's pretty far out of the picture now, and it's all on Rizzo. And Rizzo just misreads this ball. And Kronovi's just barely not back in time. You know, if he hadn't gone for that, if he just rotated back, he would have been back in time. And sometimes that little bit faster of the rotation is the difference. And I can't help but feel that's what happened here. I completely understand why he went for that, but I think in hindsight it probably would have been best to rotate, and obviously the miss from Rizzo is what really led to the goal, primarily. But you always want to try and think about what went wrong other than the mechanical mistakes. But yeah, that's the series. EG clutches it out in Game 5. Not who anyone would have expected to take a Game 5 for sure, and not who most people would have predicted to take the series. So, pretty good series. After watching the Game 1, I thought, ugh, this is kind of a sloppy series. But all in all, EG did a lot of stuff. They did what they did best, what they do best. They made demo plays, and they made good passing plays. And like I mentioned, it's some of those plays that they have to do to make up for not having that like star power of JKnaps. And they did just that. So if you have any questions about the series or anything in general, I'll answer them right now. Overall thoughts on G2, what went wrong? So I felt that G2 was not doing a great job of making the passing plays they usually do. And whether that's because EG was doing a great job defending them, like I pointed out that one time, or if they just weren't looking for them. I did point out a couple misfires where they should have had a passing play, but they definitely had a lower volume than usual. And I think that was the main problem. A secondary problem, generally, we've seen a lot of series where G2's passing plays aren't going as planned, and then bumps kind of become their fallback plan. A good example of this is if you watch the G2 versus Chiefs from last season, not this LAN, but the LAN before, G2 versus Chiefs, G2 ends up getting the reverse sweep, and that's because games 1 and 2, their usual stuff just isn't working. They're just not playing right, and then they start going for bump after bump after bump, and Chiefs just weren't ready for it, so G2 kind of used it as a fallback. And even though G2's passes in this series weren't working well, we didn't see them have any sort of fallback. And I think that hurt them too. I do want some feedback on one idea I have. I was thinking about how to create some additional content for my channel, because, especially my YouTube channel, because this takes a lot of outside preparation, and while it's not a lot of editing like some of my other videos, it's still, you know, I spend like at least 2 hours reviewing the series and then at least an hour doing the review. So I don't really think I'd be comfortable doing it more than maybe twice a week, and I want to stick with once for now. So I was thinking of how to, what kind of content I could do that falls in line with what I usually do on my channel that's easier to make, and I can kind of just, you know, make it and upload it. And what I was thinking of doing is I record myself playing one game, and then I go into the replay and immediately after and try and figure out what I did wrong and what to change. And I think that could be useful for some people because, you know, it's great to look at these pro series and say, okay, this is what this team needed to do, and that kind of thing. But I think a lot of people are also curious, like, hey, I want to improve. What should I be looking at in my own games to try and figure out what I need to do better? And I think me looking at myself and trying to critique one person in particular and figure out what happened and look at individual gameplay could help a lot of people as well. So if you have any feedback or advice on what you'd want to see from the format, or ideas for names for it, or, you know, whether you'd like it or not, just let me know. Right now, if you're watching live on Twitch, or in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. But any feedback on that would be appreciated. I did talk a little bit about Chrome leaving EG at the start of the video, but I'll give some additional thoughts. I'd say I think they had a lot of chemistry going as a team, so they must have felt that there was something going sufficiently wrong for them to want to try and replace that with an unknown. I'm never going to judge teams too much for making changes because it's really hard to tell without having an inside look what's going on. But I think if they find someone who meshes really well with them, they have the potential to be very good because, like I said, they do have those very creative kinds of passing plays. So if they get someone who they can just pass to and is going to put it top corner every time, then that's going to be very good for them. Whether there's anyone like that on the free agent market, I don't know. So it'll depend who they pick up, I think. Do I think rotating through net to get a demo like EG does is almost a good strategy? I think most of the time EG goes for it is when they kind of went up for an aerial and then they landed and are just headed in that direction. And in that case, I think it's pretty much always good if your team is going to have possession, and it's usually not good to spend boost to go for the demo if the other team is going to have control. So for instance, if you're rotating through net and there's someone right in front of you, then just finish your rotation, try and go for the bump, but don't pursue them. But if your team is going to have possession, then even if they're a little bit inside the net, or if they try and dodge you, it's okay to try and pursue them because it's going to be a very big return if you get it. So it does largely depend on whether your team is ready to capitalize. The other thing they do often is they have very deliberate plays where, and they're one of the only teams that I see do demo plays this deliberately, where they hit it somewhere where their team will eventually be able to get it, given that they go for a demo. So they say, hey, if I just pop it to the ceiling, the one opponent will beat my teammates to it, but if I try and bump him after I pop it, he won't be able to beat my teammates. So they just do that. And that's something that requires a lot more planning and forethought, but it's a very high-level tactic. Yeah, to be clear, when I'm asking for advice on the new format, that would be in addition to this. I'm not going to stop the Replays Workshop to do that. It's just something that takes less of my time to prepare so that I could release videos more than just like once a week if I felt like ramping up my content. Not sure if I'd actually be doing them super frequently at the beginning, but I was just trying to think of, you know, I think it's good to have the very detailed planned content, but it's also a lot of time. So if I don't want to put too much time while still having a chance to grow my channel, because YouTube's algorithms rely heavily, I believe, on uploading a lot of content. So I've started to realize it's not good enough just to have good content. I also need to be doing more of it. Okay, I think that'll do it. Again, if you have any feedback for me, let me know. And next week, I'm thinking I'll just jump right into the grand finals because there are no other series that immediately came to my mind to cover. I will probably go back and do some others after I finished it, but I know a lot of people wanted to see the grand finals, and I think I'm going to do both sets. So next week I'll do the first set, and then the next week I'll do the bracket reset. Because they were both just super, super high quality games of Rocket League. So that's what to expect to come. And thank you guys for watching.